The city of Chicago lay beneath him like a frozen corpse, beautiful and lifeless under its shroud of December snow. Logan Harper stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his office on the 50th floor of Harper Industries, watching the blizzard paint everything white. The glass felt cold against his palm, matching the temperature that had settled in his chest 12 years ago and never left. At 38, Logan commanded an empire worth $15 billion. His face graced magazine covers, his name opened doors that remained locked to presidents and princes. Yet as he watched the snow erase the city below, he felt as empty as the white void swallowing Chicago. "Mr. Harper?" Riley Sterling's voice crackled through the intercom, professional and distant as always. "The candidate for the penthouse housekeeping position has arrived." Logan didn't turn from the window. "Send her to Winston. I don't have time for domestic interviews." "Sir, you specifically requested to approve all residential staff personally after the security breach." The breach. 3 months ago, his previous housekeeper had sold photographs of his private spaces to the tabloids. The violation had cut deeper than any corporate betrayal. His penthouse was his sanctuary, the only place where he could drop the mask of the untouchable billionaire and simply exist in his carefully controlled solitude. "Conference room 3, Logan said, his breath fogging the glass. 5 minutes. He straightened his Italian silk tie and checked his reflection in the window. The man staring back at him looked exactly like what he was: successful, cold, and utterly alone. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his gray suit impeccable, his green eyes as flat as lake ice in January. The media called him the Ice King of Chicago, and they had no idea how right they were. The executive floor exemplified everything Logan had become: minimalist, expensive, and sterile. White marble floors reflected harsh LED lighting. Abstract art worth millions adorned the walls, chosen by interior designers he'd never met. Everything screamed success while whispering emptiness. He pushed through the glass doors of the conference room, expecting another middle-aged professional with impeccable references and a forgettable face. Instead, time stuttered to a stop. She sat with her back straight despite the threadbare coat draped over the chair beside her. Her dark auburn hair was pulled into a neat bun that couldn't quite contain the rebellious curls escaping around her face. When she looked up, Logan's carefully maintained composure cracked like spring ice. Her eyes were the blue of deep ocean water, intelligent and warm with an inner light that made the sterile conference room suddenly feel alive. High cheekbones spoke of Celtic heritage, while her full lips curved into a professional smile that didn't quite hide the nervousness in those remarkable eyes. She wore a simple black dress that had seen better days, but she carried herself like a queen in exile. "Mr. Harper." Winston rose from his seat, his Scottish accent softening the formality. "May I present Miss Isabella Reeves? Her references from the Whitfield Hotel Group are exemplary." Isabella stood with fluid grace, extending her hand. "Mr. Harper, thank you for considering me for this position." Her accent carried the musical lilt of Ireland beneath careful American pronunciation. When their hands touched, Logan felt something he hadn't experienced in 12 years. Warmth. Not just physical warmth, though her palm was soft despite the calluses that spoke of honest work, but something deeper. Something that terrified him. "Miss Reeves," he managed, his voice rougher than intended. He released her hand quickly, disturbed by his reluctance to let go. "Your experience?" "I managed housekeeping services for the Whitfield's presidential suites for 3 years, she said, meeting his gaze directly. No flinching, no cowering. Everyone cowered before Logan Harper. CEOs, senators, celebrities, they all wilted under his Arctic stare. But not her. Before that, I worked with a private cleaning service catering to high-profile clients in London." "Why leave the Whitfield?" Logan asked, settling into his chair and forcing his voice back to its usual emotionless tone. Something flickered in her eyes, pain, quickly masked. "Family obligations. My grandmother needed me in Chicago, and family comes first." Family. The word struck Logan like a physical blow. He'd had family once, parents who'd died in a plane crash when he was 26, a fiancée who'd perished in the accident that had stolen his future. Now he had only employees and business associates who wanted his money or feared his power. This position requires living on-site, Logan said, his voice colder than the December wind rattling the windows. The penthouse includes private staff quarters. Hours are irregular. I work late and rise early. Discretion is non-negotiable. I understand completely, Mr. Harper. Her chin lifted slightly. I've worked with high-profile clients before. I know the importance of privacy and professional boundaries. Professional boundaries. The words should have been reassuring. Instead, they felt like walls being erected between them, and Logan found himself inexplicably wanting to tear them down. The penthouse hasn't been properly maintained since my previous housekeeper's departure, Winston interjected, shooting Logan a meaningful look. It requires someone with attention to detail and the ability to work independently. I prefer to work alone, Isabella said. It's more efficient and ensures consistency. Logan studied her face, searching for the calculating look he'd seen in so many women who'd tried to get close to him over the years. Women who saw dollar signs where they should see a person, who viewed him as a prize to be won or a wallet to be emptied. But Isabella Reeves looked at him with nothing more than professional interest tinged with what might have been. Compassion? Tell me about your grandmother, Logan heard himself say, immediately wondering why he'd asked such a personal question. Isabella's expression softened. Eleanor Reeves. She's 79 and the strongest woman I know. She raised me after... She paused, then continued more carefully. After my parents passed. She came to America 40 years ago with nothing but hope and determination. Now she's ill, and it's my turn to take care of her. What's wrong with her? Again, the question escaped before Logan could stop it. Heart condition. The treatments are expensive, but she's responding well. Isabella's smile was brave and heartbreaking. She says Irish hearts are too stubborn to quit. Logan knew about stubborn hearts. His own had kept beating for 12 years despite having nothing to beat for. Winston will review the employment terms with you, Logan said abruptly, standing. You start Monday, 7 a.m. sharp. He turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. Mr. Harper? He looked back to find her smiling, genuinely this time. The expression transformed her face from merely beautiful to absolutely radiant. Thank you for this opportunity. I promise you won't regret it. Logan nodded curtly and escaped the conference room, his heart hammering against his ribs for the first time in years. In the elevator to his penthouse, he pressed his forehead against the cool metal wall and tried to regain his legendary control. It was merely attraction, he told himself. A biological response to a beautiful woman. He was human, after all, despite what the business press claimed. He could control this. He controlled everything in his life with iron discipline. The elevator opened directly into his penthouse, revealing 3 floors of pristine perfection. The space was a monument to his success and his isolation. 12,000 square feet of marble, glass, and loneliness. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Chicago, now invisible behind the veil of falling snow. His art collection, Picasso's, Pollock's, a Monet, watched from the walls like expensive ghosts. Logan walked to his bar and poured 3 fingers of 50-year-old Macallan. The scotch burned, but it couldn't touch the cold that lived inside him. He'd spent 12 years building these walls, perfecting this isolation. One woman with ocean eyes wasn't going to change that. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. Dinner Thursday at the club. The Blackwood family will be joining us. Sophia is lovely and accomplished. Logan deleted the message without responding. Victoria Harper remained convinced she could orchestrate his life like one of her charity galas. She refused to accept what the doctors had told them 12 years ago, that her son would never give her grandchildren, would never continue the Harper legacy in the traditional way. How could he explain to his mother that a man who couldn't father children had no right to pursue love? How could he tell her that he'd already had his chance at happiness and had lost it in twisted metal and flames on a private airstrip in Montana? He walked to his bedroom, noting the dust on his bookshelf, the fingerprints on the windows. The penthouse did need attention. That's why he'd hired Isabella Reeves for her professional qualifications, nothing more. It had nothing to do with the way she'd looked at him like he was a person instead of a bank account. Nothing to do with the warmth in her eyes or the dignity in her bearing despite her worn clothes. Logan stripped off his suit and stepped into the shower, turning the water as hot as he could stand. He closed his eyes, but instead of the usual darkness, he saw ocean blue eyes and heard the musical lilt of an Irish accent carefully smoothed by years in America. Monday. In 3 days, Isabella Reeves would enter his sanctuary. She'd move through his private spaces, touching his belongings, breathing life into rooms that had known only emptiness for over a decade. The thought should have been disturbing. Instead, it filled him with something dangerously close to anticipation. For 12 years, Logan Harper had been content in his ice palace, ruling his empire from behind walls of wealth and indifference. He'd convinced himself that feeling nothing was better than risking the devastating pain of loss again. But as he stood under the scalding water, he couldn't shake the memory of how her hand had felt in his warm, real, alive. The snow continued to fall outside, burying Chicago under a blanket of white. But for the first time in 12 years, Logan Harper felt the faintest crack in the ice around his heart. It was terrifying. It was dangerous. It was the beginning of everything. By the time he finally fell asleep, the blizzard had transformed Chicago into an alien landscape of white drifts and howling wind. Logan dreamed not of plane crashes and flames, but of ocean blue eyes and a smile that made him remember what warmth felt like. Monday couldn't come fast enough, and that terrified him most of all. Monday arrived wrapped in the worst blizzard Chicago had seen in a decade. Logan stood at his penthouse windows at 6:45 a.m. watching the city disappear beneath a violent swirl of white. The Weather Service had issued a travel ban. No one with sense would venture out in this maelstrom. At 7 a.m. exactly, the private elevator chimed. Logan turned, coffee mug frozen halfway to his lips, as Isabella Reeves stepped into his penthouse. Snow clung to her coat and eyelashes. Her cheeks were red from the cold, her hair wilder than it had been in the conference room, and she was shivering despite the thick scarf wrapped around her neck. "Miss Reeves," Logan said, setting down his mug. "How did you—" "I walked." She said it simply, as if walking 2 miles through a blizzard was perfectly reasonable. "The buses stopped running at 5. I didn't want to be late on my first day." "You walked? Through this?" Logan gestured at the apocalyptic scene outside. "I've walked through worse." She unwrapped her scarf, revealing that brilliant smile. "Though I'll admit, Chicago winters are more aggressive than London's." Logan found himself moving before he'd made the conscious decision, taking her snow-covered coat. It was worn at the elbows, patched at one pocket. Had she really walked 2 miles through a blizzard in this inadequate protection? "You're freezing," he said, noting how her hands trembled as she pulled off her gloves. "Winston left coffee in the kitchen. Help yourself while I—" He stopped, realizing he was about to offer to make her coffee himself. Logan Harper didn't make coffee for anyone. "While you warm up." "Thank you, Mr. Harper." She moved toward the kitchen, then paused. "Should I wait for Mr. Winston to show me the proper procedures?" "Winston lives in Lincoln Park. He won't make it in this weather." Logan watched her navigate his kitchen with careful movements, as if afraid of disturbing the perfection. "Looks like it's just us today." Something flickered across her face, uncertainty, fear, before she nodded. "Then perhaps you could show me your preferences? I'd like to understand how you like things done." How he liked things done. Logan liked things sterile, controlled, predictable. He liked knowing that every day would be exactly like the last. No surprises, no variations, no risk of feeling anything beyond the satisfaction of another successful acquisition. But watching Isabella pour coffee with hands that were still shaking from cold, Logan felt that dangerous crack in his defenses widen. "First," he said, pulling out a stool at the granite island, "sit down and drink your coffee." "You're no use to me if you collapse from hypothermia." She hesitated. "I don't think—" "Sit." It came out as more of a command than he'd intended, but she obeyed, wrapping her hands around the mug with a grateful sigh. Logan studied her in the morning light. Without the formal interview setting, she looked younger, more vulnerable. Her dress today was navy blue, professionally appropriate, but showing the same signs of careful maintenance as her coat. When she lifted the mug to her lips, he noticed her nails were short and clean, no polish, practical. "Tell me about walking through worse," he said. surprising himself again with the personal question. Isabella's eyes met his over the rim of her mug. When I first came to Chicago, I worked 3 jobs. One started at 4 a.m. at a bakery in Pilsen. No buses ran that early, so I walked. 4 miles each way, every morning, even in winter. Why 3 jobs? Eleanor's medications, plus rent, food, utilities, 3 minimum wage jobs barely covered it. She said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity. The bakery was the best, though. The owner, Mrs. Chen, taught me how to make proper croissants, said I had good hands for pastry. Logan tried to imagine it. This elegant woman working 18-hour days, walking through pre-dawn Chicago winters, learning to make croissants from a Chinese baker. It was so far removed from his world of private jets and board meetings that it might as well have been fiction. "Do you still make croissants?" he asked. A genuine smile lit her face. "When I can afford butter. Good croissants require obscene amounts of butter. The penthouse kitchen is fully stocked. Make whatever you want." "That's very generous, but it's practical. You'll be here long hours. You need to eat." Logan stood abruptly, uncomfortable with the warmth spreading through his chest. "Come, I'll show you the penthouse." He led her through his domain, pointing out his preferences with clinical efficiency. The office required daily attention. He worked late and left papers everywhere. The bedroom and bathroom were to be serviced while he was at the office. The gym and media room could be cleaned weekly. The art required special care. "Is that a real Monet?" Isabella breathed, stopping in front of the painting. "Water lilies. Evening effect. 1899. Logan watched her face as she studied the painting. Most people looked at his art collection with calculating eyes, seeing dollar signs. Isabella looked like someone viewing a miracle. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "The way the light seems to move on the water. I studied art history for 2 years before—" She stopped, shaking her head. "Before life intervened." "You went to university?" "Trinity College, Dublin. Scholarship." Pride and regret warred in her voice. "I was going to be a museum curator. Spend my life surrounded by beautiful things, helping other people understand why they matter." "What happened?" Isabella turned from the painting, that brave smile back in place. "My parents died. Car accident. Eleanor needed me, so I came to America with her. Dreams are lovely, Mr. Harper, but family is real." Logan knew about car accidents. He knew about dreams dying in twisted metal, but he'd had millions to cushion his fall. What must it have been like for her, losing everything and having only an elderly grandmother to catch her? "The storm's getting worse," he said, moving away from dangerous emotional territory. "You should familiarize yourself with the penthouse today. Actual cleaning can wait until tomorrow." "I don't mind working in the storm, Mr. Harper. That's what you're paying me for." "I'm paying you to maintain my home, not to risk your life." The words came out harsher than intended. "There's a guest suite on the 48th floor, part of the penthouse but with a separate entrance. You can stay there tonight." Isabella's eyes widened. "I couldn't. Eleanor, call her. Let her know you're safe." Logan pulled out his phone, checked the weather. "They're predicting another 18 inches by morning. You wouldn't make it home if you tried." She bit her lip, clearly torn between propriety and practicality. "If you're certain—" "I insist." He turned away before she could see how much he wanted her to stay. Not for any inappropriate reason, he told himself, but because the thought of her walking back through the blizzard made his chest tight with an unfamiliar anxiety. The day passed in a strange dance of distance and proximity. Logan retreated to his office, but found himself hyper-aware of Isabella's presence in his space. He heard her humming softly as she worked Irish folk songs he didn't recognize. Once, he emerged for coffee and found her on a stepladder, carefully cleaning the chandelier in the foyer. "You don't have to do that today," he said. She looked down at him, a crystal droplet in each hand. "It's therapeutic, actually, like meditation, but productive." "You meditate?" "Eleanor taught me. Said it was the only way to survive poverty with your soul intact." She returned to her work. "Plus, this chandelier is magnificent. Waterford crystal, isn't it? You know Waterford crystal?" That smile again, self-deprecating but genuine. "Art history major, remember? I can identify a Waterford pattern at 50 paces. Useless skill for a housekeeper, but it makes me careful with beautiful things. Logan watched her work for longer than was appropriate, mesmerized by the careful way she handled each crystal, the grace in her movements despite the precarious perch. When was the last time anyone had treated his possessions with actual appreciation rather than mere professional caution? By evening, the blizzard had transformed into a full-scale winter siege. The windows rattled with wind and snow piled against the glass in impossible drifts. Logan found Isabella in the kitchen, staring into his refrigerator with a bemused expression. "Problem?" he asked. She startled, then laughed. "Your refrigerator is worth more than my car, and it contains nothing but bottled water, expired yogurt, and what I think might once have been lettuce." Logan peered over her shoulder, catching a hint of her scent, something clean and floral, like spring rain. "I usually order in." "Not tonight. You won't. Nothing's delivering in this." She opened his freezer, then his pantry, her expression growing more incredulous. "Mr. Harper, when was the last time you actually cooked?" He tried to remember. "There was an omelet. Maybe. 2019. That's not cooking, that's survival." She rolled up her sleeves with determination. "Right. I saw a grocery delivery in the staff area. Probably Winston's standing order. Mind if I rate it?" "Help yourself." 20 minutes later, his penthouse smelled like heaven. Isabella moved around his kitchen with confident efficiency, transforming basic ingredients into something that made his mouth water. She'd found an apron somewhere one of his, he realized, that some long-ago girlfriend had bought in a misguided attempt at domesticity. It was too big for her, making her look oddly young and vulnerable. "Shepherd's pie," she announced, sliding a cast-iron skillet into the oven. "Eleanor's recipe. Nothing fancy, but it'll warm you up." "You don't have to cook for me." "I'm cooking for us. I'm hungry too, and it's silly to make two meals." She paused, uncertainty crossing her face. "Unless you'd prefer to eat alone? I can take mine to the staff quarters." "No." The word came out too fast, too eager. Logan moderated his tone. "No, that's fine. We can eat here." While the pie baked, Isabella made tea proper tea, she insisted, not the travesty in bags most Americans accepted. She moved around his kitchen like she belonged there, bringing warmth and life to a space that had known only the occasional caterer. "Tell me about the art history," Logan said, surprising himself. He never made personal conversation with staff. Never. Isabella's face lit up as she talked about her studies, her favorite periods, the professors who'd encouraged her. She had a gift for making the subject come alive, describing the revolutionary nature of Impressionism like she was sharing gossip about friends. "You should have finished," Logan said when she paused. "Your degree." "Should is a luxury I couldn't afford." She checked the pie, nodding with satisfaction. "But I'm grateful for the time I had. 2 years of beauty and learning, that's more than most people get." The oven timer chimed, and soon Logan found himself sitting at his own dining table for the first time in months, eating homemade shepherd's pie while a blizzard raged outside. The food was simple but perfectly seasoned, comfort in a cast-iron skillet. "This is excellent," he said, meaning it. "Hunger is the best sauce." But she looked pleased. "Eleanor says the secret is in the lamb. Most people use beef, but lamb gives it more depth." They ate in companionable silence for a while, the storm creating a strange intimacy. Here in his tower above Chicago, insulated from the world by weather and wealth, Logan felt something he hadn't experienced in years: contentment. "Why hotels?" he asked eventually. "With your education, you could have found other work." "Could I?" Isabella's smile was gently mocking. "An incomplete degree from a foreign university. No American experience, no connections. Hotels didn't care about my education. They cared that I showed up on time and worked hard." "That's a waste of your talents." "No." Her voice was firm. "Honest work is never a waste. I make spaces beautiful and comfortable for people. Maybe it's not hanging paintings in the Louvre, but it matters. To business travelers missing home, to couples on honeymoons, to families on vacation, I create a clean, welcoming space for their lives to happen. That's not nothing." Logan stared at her, struck by the dignity in her words. When had he last thought about work as anything other than profit margins and market share? When had he last created something that mattered to actual people? After dinner, Isabella insisted on cleaning up despite his protests. Logan found himself lingering in the kitchen, watching her wash dishes by hand, even though he had a state-of-the-art dishwasher. "You know that machine cost $8,000, he said, and these hands were free." She grinned at him over her shoulder. "Besides, I like washing dishes. It's meditative. Warm water, simple task, visible results, very satisfying. You find satisfaction in unusual places, because I look for it." She dried the last plate, hung the towel neatly. "Happiness isn't something that happens to you, Mr. Harper. It's something you choose, moment by moment, in whatever circumstances you find yourself." The words hit him like a physical blow. For 12 years, he'd been waiting for happiness to find him again, convinced it had died with Sarah in Montana. But what if Isabella was right? What if he'd simply stopped choosing it? "I should show you the guest suite," he said, needing distance from these dangerous thoughts. The guest quarters were on the 48th floor, accessible by a separate elevator code. The space was smaller than his penthouse, but still luxurious one-bedroom, living area, full kitchen. It had been designed for long-term guests, back when he'd still believed he might have family visit. "This is beautiful," Isabella breathed, running her hand over the marble countertop. "Are you sure? I can try to get home. Look outside." She moved to the windows and gasped. The city had vanished. There was only white sky, white air, white ground 50 floors below. Chicago had been erased, leaving them floating in a cloud. "We're alone," she whispered. "The building has backup generators, full supplies. We could be cut off for a week without issues." Logan kept his voice professionally reassuring. "You're safe here." She turned from the window, and something in her expression made his breath catch. "I wasn't worried about safety." They stood there 5 feet apart while the storm raged outside. Logan felt the moment stretching, possibilities branching like cracks in ice. He could leave now, maintain professional distance. Or he could stay, could ask her to make more tea, could spend the evening talking about art and dreams and the beauty found in washing dishes. "I should let you rest," he said, choosing safety. "The elevator code is 4827. Kitchen's stocked. Call if you need anything." "Mr. Harper?" she called as he reached the door. "Thank you for insisting I stay, for dinner, for talking with me. It's been a long time since someone really talked with me." Logan nodded, not trusting his voice, and escaped to his own floor. But sleep eluded him. He lay in his California king bed, listening to the storm, thinking about ocean blue eyes and the radical idea that happiness was a choice. Somewhere below him, Isabella Reeves was sleeping in his guest bed, having brought more warmth to his home in one day than it had known in 12 years. Tomorrow she'd be his employee again, maintaining professional boundaries. But tonight, in this snow globe of a world cut off from everything, she'd been something else, something dangerous, something necessary, something that made him wonder if 12 years of ice might finally be ready to thaw. The storm raged on, but for the first time since Montana, Logan Harper felt warm. Spring came to Chicago like a hesitant lover, all false starts and sudden retreats. 3 months had passed since the blizzard that had brought Isabella Reeves into Logan Harper's life, and his penthouse had been transformed in ways both subtle and profound. Fresh tulips graced the dining table yellow ones this week, because they look like captured sunshine, Isabella had explained. His coffee tasted different, richer somehow, though she swore she'd changed nothing except the water temperature. The very air seemed lighter, filled with the faint scent of the lavender sachets she'd tucked discreetly in corners. But the most profound change was in the silence. What had once been oppressive isolation now felt like peaceful solitude, because Logan knew that at 7 each morning, Isabella would arrive with her quiet humming and gentle presence. He stood at his office windows now, watching her in the reflection as she arranged his desk with meticulous care. She thought he didn't notice these small attentions, how she always placed his favorite pen at precisely the right angle, how she left the financial journals opened to the articles she knew would interest him, how she'd started buying the Scottish shortbread he'd mentioned once in passing. "The Blackwood Holdings file, Mr. Harper," Riley Sterling said, entering with a tablet. "The acquisition proposal you requested." Logan took the tablet but found his attention drifting back to Isabella's reflection. Today she wore a pale green dress that brought out the auburn in her hair. It was new, he realized. Over the past months, the worn clothes had been gradually replaced with simple but well-made pieces. He'd increased her salary substantially over Winston's protests about market rates. "Sir?" Riley prompted. "The conference call with Tokyo? Push it to tomorrow." Logan made the decision impulsively. "I have another matter to attend to." After Riley left, Logan waited until Isabella finished in his office. She moved to the living room, dusting the Monet with a reverence that never failed to move him. He'd caught her once, standing before it with tears in her eyes, and when he'd asked why, she'd simply said, "Beauty hurts sometimes, doesn't it, when you've been without it for so long?" "Isabella." She turned, smiling. The professional Miss Reeves had given way to first names a month ago after she'd found him passed out at his desk at 3 a.m. and had made him tea and toast at his kitchen counter while gently scolding him about self-care. "No sleep again?" she asked, studying his face with those penetrating blue eyes. "You look exhausted." "I'm fine," the automatic response, but her raised eyebrow made him amend. "Tired. The Singapore merger is complicated. When did you last eat? And coffee doesn't count." Logan tried to remember. Breakfast yesterday? Maybe? Isabella shook her head with fond exasperation. "Come on, I made extra soup." This had become their pattern on days when he worked from home. She'd make extra food, always framing it as accidental, though he suspected otherwise, and they'd eat together in his kitchen, talking about everything except business. Today's soup was potato leek, creamy, and comforting. Isabella served it with thick slices of homemade bread that filled the penthouse with the scent of yeast and comfort. "You've been baking," he said, surprised. "I told you good croissants required obscene amounts of butter." She smiled, sliding a perfectly laminated pastry across the counter. "Mrs. Chen would be proud." Logan bit into the croissant and nearly moaned. It was perfect buttery, flaky, with layers that shattered at his touch. "This is incredible." Tuesday mornings are quiet. "Gave me time to practice." She watched him eat with satisfaction. "You need to take better care of yourself, Logan. Money can't buy you a new body when you wear this one out." "Worried about job security?" He meant it as a joke, but her face grew serious. "Worried about you?" She looked down at her soup. "You're a good man who's forgotten how to be good to himself." The words hung between them. Too honest for employer and employee, too careful for what was growing between them. Because something was growing, had been since that first blizzard. Logan felt it in the way his day brightened when she arrived, in how he found excuses to work from home more often, in the dangerous warmth that spread through his chest when she smiled. "I have a meeting tonight," he said, deflecting. "Another attempt by my mother to marry me off." Isabella's spoon paused halfway to her mouth. "Oh?" "Sophia Blackwood, Congressman Blackwood's daughter. Harvard MBA, runs her own investment firm, passionate about horses and charity galas." He recited the credentials with distaste. Everything a Harper heir should want in a wife. She sounds accomplished. She sounds tedious. Logan pushed his empty bowl away. "All these women my mother parades past me are the same. They see Harper Industries, the penthouse, the bank balance. They don't see you." Isabella finished quietly. "The broken parts, the damage." He laughed bitterly, "Though that's probably for the best. No one wants damaged goods." Isabella's hand moved across the counter, stopping just short of his. "Everyone's damaged, Logan. The lucky ones find people who see their cracks as places where the light gets in." He stared at her hand, so close to his. 1 inch. That's all it would take to bridge the gap, to cross the line they'd been dancing around for months. 1 inch to change everything. His phone buzzed. Victoria Harper. "Dinner at 7. Don't be late." The moment shattered. Isabella pulled her hand back, stood to clear the bowls. "You should rest before tonight. Power nap. 20 minutes can make a difference." "I don't nap." "Because you've never had someone wake you up properly." She moved to the living room, patting the sofa. Come on, 20 minutes. I'll wake you at 6 so you have time to get ready. This is ridiculous. This is self-care. Lie down, Logan. He obeyed, partly from exhaustion and partly from the novel experience of being gently bossed around. Isabella pulled a throw blanket over him. When had his penthouse acquired throw blankets? And moved to the piano. What are you doing? Eleanor used to play when I couldn't sleep. Said music ordered the chaos in our minds. Her fingers found the keys, coaxing out a melody he didn't recognize. Something Celtic and ancient, full of longing and hope. Logan closed his eyes, letting the music wash over him. When was the last time someone had taken care of him like this? Not since Sarah, and even she had been more interested in the Harper name than the Harper man. He dreamed of green hills and blue eyes, of warm kitchens and the smell of baking bread. When Isabella's gentle touch woke him exactly 20 minutes later, he felt more rested than he had in months. Better? She asked. Better. He sat up, noticing she'd laid out his evening clothes. You don't have to do that. I know. She moved toward the door. Good luck tonight. Try not to terrify poor Sophia too badly. Why would I terrify her? Isabella paused at the elevator. Because you're going to spend the entire evening comparing her to someone else, and she's going to know it. The elevator closed before Logan could respond, leaving him staring at the space where she'd been, his heart racing with possibilities he couldn't afford to explore. Dinner was exactly as tedious as he'd expected. The club dining room reeked of old money and older prejudices. Sophia Blackwood was everything his mother had promised: beautiful, accomplished, from the right family. She spoke knowledgeably about market trends and charity work, laughed at the right moments, and looked at him like he was an acquisition to be closed. Your mother tells me you're looking to settle down, she said over dessert, her smile calculated. My mother says many things that aren't true. Still, a man in your position needs a partner, someone who understands the demands of your world. She leaned forward slightly, displaying cleavage that did nothing for him. I understand you've had some medical challenges. I want you to know that doesn't matter to me. There are many ways to have a family. Logan set down his fork carefully. Did my mother tell you about my medical situation? She mentioned it. Tactfully, of course. Sophia's hand moved toward his across the table. It doesn't change your value as a partner. Harper Industries needs an heir, and adoption is perfectly acceptable in our circles now. Our circles. As if they were members of some exclusive club that mattered more than actual human connection. Logan thought of Isabella saying everyone was damaged, seeing cracks as places for light to enter. Sophia looked at his damage and saw a business problem to be solved. I'm not interested, he said bluntly. Her face hardened. Your mother said you might be difficult, but really, Logan, you're not getting younger. How long do you plan to hold out for perfect when adequate is available? Adequate. The word hit him like cold water. Is that what he'd been doing for 12 years, holding out for perfect? Or had he been hiding from the possibility of any feeling at all? If you'll excuse me, Logan stood. I have an early morning. He left her there open-mouthed and strode through the dining room full of his peers. Men and women who measured worth in stock portfolios and family trees, who married for mergers and produced children like business assets. Once he'd been one of them. Now, after 3 months of shared meals and Irish lullabies, he couldn't remember why any of it had mattered. Outside, Chicago's spring air hit him like freedom. Instead of calling his driver, Logan walked. His feet carried him past designer boutiques and expensive restaurants, past the world he'd inhabited for 38 years without questioning its values. He found himself at a small park, surprising given the late hour. But the chess players were still there, old men huddled over boards under streetlights. Logan watched them play, remembering Isabella's words about finding happiness in unexpected places. You play? One of the men called out. It's been years, Logan admitted. Like riding a bicycle. Come, sit. Marcus needs to go home to his wife anyway. Logan found himself across from an elderly black man with knowing eyes and gnarled hands. They played in comfortable silence, the city noise fading to background music. You're thinking too hard, the man said after Logan's third poor move. Chess is like life. Sometimes you gotta feel your way forward. I'm better with logic than feelings. That why you're playing chess with strangers instead of home with someone who loves you? Logan looked up sharply. The old man smiled. Got that look. Man running from something good because he's scared of something bad. You don't know me. Know enough. Rich suit, expensive watch, but you're here playing chess with Emmanuel instead of wherever that suit belongs. He moved his bishop. Check. And let me guess you're thinking about someone right now. Someone who makes you want to be better than you are. Logan stared at the board, seeing Isabella's face in the pattern of pieces. It's complicated. Love always is. That's how you know it's real. Emmanuel captured Logan's queen. Checkmate. And here's free advice. Complicated is just another word for interesting. You strike me as a man who's had enough of simple. Logan walked home slowly, Emmanuel's words echoing. He'd had simple with every woman since Sarah's simple transactions, simple expectations, simple emptiness. Isabella was complicated. She was his employee but felt like his friend. She was from a different world but understood his better than anyone born to it. She made him want things he'd thought were lost forever. The penthouse was dark when he arrived, but something was different. A note on the counter in Isabella's neat handwriting. Leftover soup in the fridge. Reheat gently. Drink water. Sleep. Tomorrow needs you whole. Such simple words, but they broke something open in Logan's chest. When had anyone last cared if he ate, if he slept, if he was whole? He heated the soup, ate it standing at the windows overlooking Chicago. Somewhere out there, Isabella was probably asleep in her small apartment, maybe dreaming of the art she'd never gotten to curate. Tomorrow she'd return, bringing sunshine in the form of yellow tulips and gentle scolding about self-care. And he'd pretend his heart didn't race when she smiled. Pretend he didn't time his work-from-home days to match her schedule. Pretend that watching her dust the Monet wasn't the highlight of his week. But pretending was exhausting, and Logan Harper was tired of being tired. His phone buzzed. Victoria. Sophia said you left abruptly. This is unacceptable, Logan. You need to think about your future. He was thinking about his future. For the first time in 12 years, he was thinking about a future that included more than board meetings and acquisitions. A future with yellow tulips and homemade bread. A future with someone who saw his damage as places for light to enter. Logan deleted his mother's message and went to bed. Tomorrow, Isabella would arrive at 7 sharp, humming Irish folk songs and bringing life to his sterile tower. Tomorrow, he might finally be brave enough to bridge that inch between their hands. Tomorrow, everything could change. If he could just find the courage to stop pretending and start living. The call came at 2 a.m. on a rain-soaked Thursday. Logan jerked awake to his phone's insistent buzzing, immediately alert, in the way of people who'd received middle-of-the-night disasters before. Logan? Isabella's voice, but wrong. Thick with tears and barely controlled panic. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to call, but I didn't know who else. What's wrong? He was already out of bed, reaching for clothes. It's Eleanor. She collapsed. We're at Chicago General, and they're saying... Her voice broke. They're saying she needs surgery, but our insurance won't cover it because it's experimental, and I can't... I'm on my way. You don't have to... Isabella, I'm on my way. 20 minutes later, Logan strode through the sliding doors of Chicago General's emergency room, a place that smelled of disinfectant and despair. He found Isabella in the waiting area, still in pajama pants and an oversized sweater, her hair wild and her face streaked with tears. She stood when she saw him, swaying slightly. Logan, He caught her as her knees buckled, pulling her against his chest. She sobbed into his shirt, her whole body shaking with the force of her fear. Tell me everything, he said quietly, stroking her hair. She woke up gasping, couldn't breathe. The paramedics said her heart valve failed, the one they repaired 2 years ago. Isabella pulled back, wiping her eyes. There's a new procedure, minimally invasive, but it's not FDA approved yet, so insurance classifies it as experimental. $60,000. $60,000. More than Isabella made in a year. Logan could see her doing the math, the desperation building behind her eyes. The doctor's name? What? The doctor treating Eleanor. What's their name? Dr. Morrison. But Logan, I can't ask you. You're not asking. I'm offering. He guided her to a chair, crouched in front of her. Where is she now? Pre-op. They're stabilizing her, but without guarantee of payment. Isabella's hands twisted in her lap. I've been so careful, saved everything I could, but it's not enough. It's never enough. Logan took her hands, stilling their frantic movement. Listen to me. Eleanor is going to have the surgery, the best surgeon, the best care, whatever she needs. I'll pay you back, every penny. I'll work extra hours, take a second job, Isabella. He squeezed her hands gently. Stop. This isn't a loan. This isn't an advance on your salary. This is me taking care of someone important to you because you're important to me. She stared at him, those ocean eyes wide with shock. I'm your housekeeper. No. The word came out fierce. You stopped being just my housekeeper the day you made me soup and told me to take better care of myself. You're... He struggled for words that wouldn't cross professional lines while being honest about the truth burning in his chest. You're the person who brought light back into my life. Mr. Harper? A doctor in surgical scrubs approached. I'm Dr. Morrison. Are you the family? He's family, Isabella said quickly, gripping Logan's hand. Good. We need to discuss the procedure and payment arrangements. An hour later, papers were signed, payment guaranteed, and Eleanor was being prepped for surgery. Logan had thrown his weight around shamelessly, ensuring she'd have the head of cardiology in a private recovery room. When hospital administrators recognized the Harper name, doors opened and red tape evaporated. Isabella hadn't let go of his hand through any of it. Now they sat in a private waiting room, the rain drumming against windows. Isabella had finally stopped shaking, though she still looked fragile enough to shatter. Tell me about her, Logan said. Not the medical stuff. Tell me about Eleanor. A ghost of a smile crossed Isabella's face. She's terrible at poker but plays anyway. Cheats outrageously at Scrabble, makes up words and insists they're Irish, sings in the shower badly, makes the world's best brown bread and won't share the recipe because she says I need a reason to visit when I'm old. She sounds wonderful. She is. After my parents died, I was so angry at them for leaving, at the world for taking them, at God for letting it happen. Isabella leaned her head against Logan's shoulder, seeming not to notice the intimacy of the gesture. Eleanor just let me be angry. Didn't try to fix me or rush me through grief. Just made me tea and taught me to knit and waited for me to find my way back. How old were you? 15. Old enough to understand death, too young to accept it. She was quiet for a moment. The drunk driver who hit them got 18 months. 18 months for destroying my whole world. Eleanor sold everything in Dublin to pay for the lawyers, then used what was left to bring us here for a fresh start. Logan thought of his own loss as parents in a plane crash, fiancé in another accident. But he'd had millions to cushion the blow, an empire to distract him. What must it have been like for a 15-year-old girl with nothing but an elderly grandmother and righteous anger? She must be proud of you, he said. She worries. Says I work too hard. Care too much about her and not enough about myself. Isabella lifted her head to look at him. She'd like you, I think, after she got over the terror of me working for someone so wealthy. Protective. Thinks rich men see women like me as disposable. She must have felt him tense because she added quickly, I told her you were different. That you see me. Really see me. I do, Logan said quietly. I see you, Isabella. The waiting room door opened, admitting a tall, distinguished man Logan recognized with a jolt. Richard Blackwood. The congressman looked equally surprised to see Logan, his eyes narrowing as he took in Isabella pressed against Logan's side. Harper? Didn't expect to see you here? Congressman. Logan didn't move, didn't create distance from Isabella. What brings you to Chicago General at 4 a.m.? My mother. Hip surgery complications. Blackwood's gaze lingered on Isabella with an expression that made Logan's protective instincts flare. And this is... None of your business, Logan said coolly. Blackwood smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Of course. Well, I should check on Mother. Harper, we should talk soon about that technology bill. Your input would be valuable. After he left, Isabella shivered. I don't like him. Good instincts. Richard Blackwood collects leverage the way other people collect stamps. Logan made a mental note to increase security at the penthouse. If Blackwood was sniffing around, trouble would follow. Dr. Morrison appeared at 5:47 a.m. looking tired but pleased. The surgery went perfectly. Mrs. Reeves is a fighter. She's in recovery now, asking for her granddaughter. Isabella sagged with relief. Can I see her? Just for a few minutes. She needs rest. Logan waited while Isabella visited Eleanor, using the time to make several phone calls. By the time she returned, he'd arranged for a private nurse, upgraded Eleanor's room to a suite, and had Winston preparing the guest apartment at the penthouse. She's okay, Isabella said, fresh tears streaming down her face. Groggy and complaining about the hospital gown, so definitely okay. Good. Now let me take you home. I should stay. The nurse will call if anything changes. You need sleep, real food, and clean clothes. He guided her toward the exit. Eleanor's going to need you strong for her recovery. In the car, Isabella finally seemed to realize she was wearing pajamas in public. Oh, God. I didn't even think. I must look beautiful, Logan said without thinking. Worried and exhausted, but beautiful. She stared at him in the dim light of the car. Why are you doing this? Really? Because 3 months ago, a woman walked through a blizzard to clean my penthouse. She made me soup and played piano and told me happiness was a choice. She changed everything without trying to change anything. He met her eyes. Because I'm falling in love with you, Isabella. Have been since the day we met. The words hung in the air between them, honest and terrifying. Isabella's eyes filled with fresh tears. I can't, she whispered. Logan, I can't. You're my employer. I need this job. Eleanor needs... I know. He touched her face gently. I know all the reasons this is impossible, but I also know I spend every day waiting for 7 a.m. I know my penthouse feels like home now instead of a prison. I know that when you smile, I remember what happiness feels like. What about your mother? Your world? I'm nobody, Logan. A housekeeper with a sick grandmother and an incomplete degree. You're everything, he said fiercely. You're kind and brave, and you see beauty where others see only value. You treat my possessions with more care than I do because you appreciate art, not price tags. You're the only person in my life who cares if I eat or sleep or remember to be human. That's not love. That's just decency. In my world, they're the same thing. Isabella laughed through her tears, a broken sound. This is insane. Completely insane, he agreed. And I don't care. The car pulled up to her building, a tired-looking complex that made Logan's protective instincts surge again. How many nights had she walked through this unsafe neighborhood after cleaning his palace in the sky? Come to the penthouse, he said impulsively. Just for tonight. Get some rest in the guest suite. You'll be closer to the hospital. Logan. No expectations, no pressure. Just let me take care of you the way you take care of everyone else. She was too exhausted to argue further. At the penthouse, Logan showed her to the guest suite, the same one where she'd stayed during the blizzard. He'd had Winston stock it with essentials after that night, just in case. There are clothes in the closet, he said. Various sizes. Toiletries in the bathroom. You just keep women's clothes lying around? She asked with a weak attempt at humor. I had Winston order them after the blizzard. In case you ever needed. He trailed off, realizing how that sounded. In case of emergencies. You bought me clothes 3 months ago just in case I might need them someday. It seemed practical at the time. Isabella studied him with those penetrating eyes. You've been taking care of me all along, haven't you? The salary increase that was way above market rate, the bonuses, the standing order for fresh flowers that you pretend are for the penthouse, but always happen to be my favorites. You noticed? I notice everything about you, Logan Harper. She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the gold flecks in her blue eyes. I notice that you drink your coffee black when you're stressed, but add cream when you're content. I notice you always stand by the Monet when you're thinking about something difficult. I notice that you smile, really smile, only when you think no one's looking. And what do you conclude from all this noticing? That I'm in love with you, too. The words were barely a whisper. And it terrifies me. Logan's heart stopped, then resumed at double speed. Isabella, I can't lose this job. Not with Eleanor. You'll never lose your job, even if you decide you can't be with me. I would never punish you for my feelings. Promise me, she said fiercely. Promise me that no matter what happens between us personally, you won't take away my ability to care for Eleanor. I promise. But Isabella, I want to care for her too. For both of you. He cupped her face gently. Not because you're my employee, because you're the woman I love. She kissed him then, soft and desperate and tasting of tears. Logan pulled her closer, pouring 3 months of suppressed longing into the connection. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. This changes everything, she whispered. Everything's already changed. We're just finally admitting it. Your mother will never accept this. Then she'll lose her son. Logan meant every word. I've spent 12 years in the darkness, Isabella. You brought me back to life. I won't give that up for anyone's approval. What about children? Your legacy? The old wound throbbed, but softer now. Any child we raise adopted, fostered, borrowed will be loved. Isn't that legacy enough? Isabella kissed him again, answer enough. Later, after she'd showered and changed into soft pajamas that fit perfectly, and when had Winston gotten so good at guessing women's sizes, they sat together on the guest suite sofa. Isabella curled against his side, finally allowing exhaustion to claim her. Sleep, Logan murmured. I'll wake you when the hospital calls. What if this is a mistake? She asked drowsily. What if we're ruining something perfect by wanting more? Or what if we're making something perfect even better? She was asleep before she could answer. Logan held her, watching the sunrise paint Chicago in shades of gold and possibility. Somewhere across the city, Eleanor Reeves was recovering from surgery he'd paid for without thought. Somewhere in the penthouse above, yellow tulips waited in crystal vases. And here in his arms, the woman who'd taught him to choose happiness breathed evenly against his chest. His phone buzzed with a text from Richard Blackwood. Interesting night, Harper. We should discuss your interests. Logan deleted it without concern. Let Blackwood scheme. Let his mother rage. Let the whole world object. He'd found something worth fighting for, worth risking everything for. Isabella stirred in her sleep, murmuring something in Irish. Logan pressed a kiss to her hair and settled in to keep watch. He'd spent 12 years believing love was a luxury he couldn't afford. But watching the sunrise with Isabella in his arms, Logan Harper knew the truth. Love wasn't a luxury. It was the only thing worth having. Eleanor recovered beautifully, sharp-tongued and grateful in equal measure. When she finally met Logan properly, she studied him with eyes as penetrating as her granddaughter's. So you're the one who's been making my Bella smile, she said. I hope so. And you love her? Despite the differences? Despite what people will say? Because of the differences. In spite of what people will say. Eleanor nodded slowly. Then you'll do. 3 weeks later, on a perfect spring evening, Logan took Isabella to Millennium Park. The Cloudgate sculpture reflected the sunset in impossible ways, turning the world into a kaleidoscope of color. Do you remember, he said, when you told me that happiness was something you choose, moment by moment? I remember. You were right, and I choose it. I choose you. I choose us. He dropped to one knee, pulling out a ring box. Not the massive diamond his mother would expect, but a simple sapphire surrounded by smaller stones. Isabella Reeves, will you marry me? Will you choose happiness with me, moment by moment, for the rest of our lives? She was crying again, but laughing too. Yes, yes to all of it. Yes to choosing happiness. Yes to choosing you. Yes, yes, yes. Spring snow began to fall as they kissed, unseasonable and perfect. Around them, strangers applauded, but Logan heard only Isabella's laughter and the sound of his heart finally, fully thawing. The Ice King of Chicago had melted, and in his place stood simply a man in love, holding his future in his arms while snow fell like confetti from heaven. 8 months of marriage had transformed Logan Harper in ways that still surprised him when he caught his reflection. The harsh lines around his mouth had softened. The perpetual furrow between his brows had smoothed. He actually smiled in board meetings, causing more than one director to check if he was feeling well. But the most remarkable change was in how he measured time, no longer by quarterly reports or acquisition deadlines, but by the small moments that made a life. Isabella singing in the shower, her Irish accent stronger in the morning. Sunday dinners with Eleanor, who'd moved into an apartment near the park with round-the-clock care Logan insisted on providing. The way his wife looked when she stood before the Monet, still awestruck after seeing it every day. This morning, Logan woke to find Isabella already up, standing at their bedroom windows in one of his shirts, coffee mug cradled in her hands. The autumn sun painted her hair copper and gold. "You're up early," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Couldn't sleep? Too excited?" She leaned back against him. "Today's the day. The foundation board meeting. Are you nervous?" Terrified. But she was smiling. "What if they hate my proposal?" 3 months ago, Isabella had come to him with an idea. The Harper Foundation had always focused on large, impersonal grants to established charities. But Isabella wanted to create something different, a scholarship program for immigrant children, providing not just money but mentorship, tutoring, and family support. "They'll love it," Logan assured her. "And if they don't, I'll fire them all and find board members with better taste." "You can't fire people for disagreeing with me. Watch me." She turned in his arms, coffee mug balanced carefully. "Promise me something. If they approve this, I want to run it myself. Not just be the CEO's wife with a pet project, but really run it." "Of course. Isabella, you know I support. Even if your mother objects?" Ah, there it was. Victoria Harper had maintained a frigid politeness toward her daughter-in-law, but everyone knew her true feelings. Just last week at the charity gala, she'd introduced Isabella as Logan's current wife, as if there might be future versions. "Especially if my mother objects," Logan said firmly. Isabella kissed him, tasting of coffee and hope. "I love you. I love you too. Now come back to bed. The meeting isn't until 10. "Can't. Too nervous. I'm going to cook." By the time Logan showered and dressed, the penthouse smelled like heaven. Isabella had made enough Irish brown bread to feed an army, plus scones, fruit salad, and what appeared to be 3 different types of jam. "Stress baking?" he asked, stealing a scone. "Eleanor's recipe for black currant jam. I thought I'd bring some to the board meeting." She bit her lip. "Too much? It's too much. They'll think I'm trying to bribe them with baked goods. They'll think you're brilliant and thoughtful." Logan caught her hands, stilling their nervous movement. "Hey, look at me. You've got this. You've prepared for weeks. Your proposal is thorough, compassionate, and financially sound. Plus, you have secret weapon." "What's that?" "You're Isabella Harper. You walked through a blizzard to get to work. You saved your grandmother with sheer determination. You melted the Ice King of Chicago. A few board members don't stand a chance." The meeting was held in Harper Industries' main conference room, a space designed to intimidate with its massive table and wall of windows, showcasing the city below. Isabella had dressed carefully in a navy suit that was professional but not trying too hard. Logan thought she looked like a warrior queen preparing for battle. The board filed in, 7 members ranging from old-money philanthropists to new-tech billionaires. Logan took his seat at the head of the table while Isabella stood at the presentation screen, her proposal materials neatly arranged. "Ladies and gentlemen," Logan began, "I'd like to introduce a new initiative for the Harper Foundation. Isabella?" She started nervously, her voice catching slightly on the first words. But as she began explaining her vision, the children who fell through cracks, the families struggling to navigate systems designed to exclude them, her passion took over. "The current foster system fails immigrant children at alarming rates," she said, clicking through slides of statistics. "They age out without support networks, without understanding how to access higher education, without anyone to guide them through scholarship applications or job interviews." "Forgive me," interrupted Charles Worthington, an old guard member who'd served with Logan's father. "But don't we already fund several immigrant assistance programs?" "We write checks to them, yes," Isabella agreed. "But we don't engage. We don't follow up. We don't ensure the money actually reaches the children who need it most." "And you propose to fix this how?" This from Patricia Chen, the youngest board member, a tech entrepreneur who'd made her fortune in educational software. Isabella clicked to her next slide. By creating a comprehensive mentorship program, each scholarship recipient would be paired with a mentor from their first day of high school through college graduation. Not just financial support, but emotional support. Someone to attend parent-teacher conferences, help with college applications, celebrate graduations. The logistics alone, Worthington began, are complex but manageable. Isabella pulled out a binder. I've created a detailed implementation plan. Phase 1 focuses on Chicago, partnering with 3 high schools in predominantly immigrant neighborhoods. 20 students the first year, scaling to 100 by year 5. The questions came fast and sharp. How would they vet mentors? What metrics would measure success? How would they prevent fraud? Isabella answered each one with a confidence that made Logan's heart swell with pride. She'd done her homework, anticipated objections, prepared solutions. The projected cost? Asked David Martinez, the foundation's CFO. $8 million the first year, including setup costs and full scholarships for 20 students. By year 5, we're looking at $35 million annually to support 100 students through various stages of education. Worthington scoffed. $35 million for 100 students. That's absurd. That's comprehensive, Isabella corrected. It includes full tuition, living expenses, healthcare, technology, tutoring, and a stipend for mentors. We're not just paying for college, we're investing in entire lives. It's ambitious, Patricia said thoughtfully, but the impact could be generational. These students don't just succeed themselves, they lift their entire families. The room erupted in debate. Some board members loved the idea's scope, others worried about oversight and accountability. Through it all, Isabella stood straight, answering every concern with grace and data. Finally, Logan called for a vote. All in favor? 4 hands rose immediately. Patricia Chen, David Martinez, and 2 others. Worthington kept his hands firmly on the table, as did 2 of his allies. A tie. As chairman, I cast the deciding vote, Logan said. The motion passes. Isabella's professional mask slipped for just a moment, revealing pure joy before she composed herself. Thank you all for your trust. I won't let you down. As the board members filed out, Patricia lingered. That was impressive, Mrs. Harper. When you're ready to hire staff, I have some contacts in the tech education space. After everyone left, Isabella collapsed into a chair, shaking. I did it. Oh my God, Logan, I actually did it. He pulled her into his arms. You were magnificent. Worthington didn't know what hit him. He hated it. He hates change, but you won them over with facts and passion. I'm so proud of you. She kissed him deeply. Take me home. I want to tell Eleanor. That evening, they had dinner at the Club Victoria's standing invitation that Logan maintained to keep family peace. His mother waited at her usual table, impeccable in Chanel, her expression cooling as she saw Isabella. Mother, Logan said, kissing her cheek. Darling, Isabella. The name came out like she was acknowledging furniture. They ordered, or rather, Victoria ordered for the table, as always, Dover sole for everyone, whether they wanted it or not. Isabella caught Logan's eye, fighting a smile. She'd make him grilled cheese later, he knew, when they got home. I heard about your little project, Victoria said once wine was served. Playing philanthropist now? Running a comprehensive scholarship program, actually, Isabella said pleasantly. The board approved it this morning. How ambitious? Victoria's tone suggested ambitious was code for inappropriate. Though I do wonder if someone with more experience might be better suited. The Vanderbilt girl runs several charities. Perhaps she could advise. Isabella doesn't need advice, Logan cut in. She's perfectly capable of running her own program. Of course you'd think so. You're still in the honeymoon phase. Victoria sipped her wine. These things pass, darling. Reality eventually sets in. Meaning? Logan's voice had gone dangerously quiet. Meaning that playing house with someone from a different background is all very romantic, but building a life, a legacy, that requires compatibility beyond physical attraction. Isabella's hand found his under the table, squeezing gently, a reminder to stay calm. You're right, Isabella said suddenly. Logan and I are from different worlds. He grew up with every advantage while I grew up counting pennies for milk. He learned piano from private tutors, while I learned from a grandmother who could barely read music. He went to Harvard while I cleaned hotel rooms. Victoria smiled smugly. Exactly my... But that's what makes us perfect together, Isabella continued. He shows me how to navigate boardrooms and charity galas. I show him how to find joy in simple things. He teaches me about wine pairings. I teach him that happiness doesn't require a reserve list. We're building something neither of us could create alone. How poetic! Victoria's smile turned sharp. Tell me, does your grandmother enjoy her new apartment? The one my son pays for? It must be quite an adjustment from... What was it? Public housing? Logan started to rise, but Isabella's grip tightened. Yes, Eleanor loves being closer to the park. She says it reminds her of Dublin. Very kind of you to ask about her health. The deliberate misunderstanding of Victoria's barb was masterful. Logan fought a smile as his mother's face pinched with frustration. Speaking of health, Victoria continued, I do hope you're being careful. The Harper line has certain genetic considerations. We wouldn't want any surprises. The cruelty of it knowing Logan couldn't father children, twisting that knife made him see red. But Isabella simply smiled. Logan and I have discussed family planning extensively. When we're ready for children, we'll pursue all available options. Adoption, fostering, perhaps even newer fertility treatments. The Harper legacy will continue, just perhaps not in the traditional way. Adoption. Victoria said it like a curse. Raising someone else's cast-offs. That's enough. Logan's voice cut through the restaurant's genteel atmosphere. Mother, you will speak to my wife with respect, or you won't speak to us at all. You're choosing her over your own mother? I'm choosing happiness over hatred, love over legacy. If you can't accept that, then yes, I'm choosing her. Victoria's face went white, then red. You'll regret this, Logan. When the novelty wears off, when you realize what you've sacrificed, the only thing I've sacrificed is 12 years I could have spent being happy. He stood, helping Isabella from her chair. We're leaving. When you're ready to apologize to my wife, genuinely apologize, you know where to find us. They left Victoria sputtering at the table. In the car, Isabella finally allowed her composure to crack. That was awful, she breathed. Does she always? Not always. Usually she's more subtle. Logan pulled her close. I'm sorry, I should have declined dinner. No, she's your mother. We had to try. Isabella was quiet for a moment. She's not entirely wrong, you know, about the challenges. Don't. Logan turned her face to his. Don't let her poison get in. We're perfect together, remember? You just said so. I meant it. She kissed him softly. But Logan, what if she's right about children? What if you regret? The only thing I'd regret is losing you. He meant every word. Children or no children, you're my family now. Back at the penthouse, they found Winston had left dinner actual dinner, not Dover sole. Beef stew with crusty bread, comfort food for a difficult evening. Isabella changed into pajamas while Logan opened a bottle of wine, the good stuff from his personal collection. To surviving Victoria Harper, he toasted. To choosing happiness, Isabella countered. They drank, the wine warming them from inside. Outside, Chicago glittered in the darkness, but Logan only had eyes for his wife. Dance with me, he said suddenly. There's no music. Don't need any. He pulled her into his arms, swaying gently in their living room. Isabella laid her head on his chest, and they moved together in perfect silence. This was happiness, Logan thought. Not the grand gestures or public declarations, but these quiet moments, dancing without music, sharing wine after a difficult dinner, building a life together one small choice at a time. His phone buzzed on the counter. Without looking, Logan knew it was his mother. The first of many messages, he suspected. Apologies mixed with accusations, guilt wrapped in maternal concern. He ignored it. I love you, he murmured into Isabella's hair. Love you too, she replied, even if your mother thinks I'm after your money. Joke's on her. You've already got everything that matters. Your heart, my soul, my favorite coffee mug. He spun her gently. The good side of the bed, the last scone, all of it. Isabella laughed, the sound filling the penthouse with warmth. rich in all the ways that count. Later, as they lay in bed, Isabella traced patterns on his chest. The foundation starts hiring next week. I want to find the best people, not just the most qualified. What's the difference? Qualified people have degrees and experience. The best people remember being where these kids are. They understand that sometimes the smallest kindness changes everything, like a woman walking through a blizzard to keep a job, like making soup for a lonely billionaire, like choosing to see damaged goods as places where light could enter. You'll find them, Logan said with certainty. You have a gift for seeing the best in people. I saw it in you, she agreed, even when you couldn't see it yourself, especially then. They made love slowly, savoring each touch and whisper. 8 months of marriage had only deepened their connection. Every day, Logan discovered new things to love. The way Isabella bit her lip when concentrating, how she still got excited about fresh flowers, the fierce protectiveness she showed for those she loved. Afterward, they talked about the foundation, planning and dreaming until words gave way to drowsy contentment. Isabella fell asleep mid-sentence, something about mentor training programs. Logan lay awake longer, holding her close, marveling at how much his life had changed. The penthouse that had once been his prison was now a home. The future that had seemed empty now brimmed with possibility. And the heart he'd thought frozen beyond saving beat strong and sure, filled with more love than he'd imagined possible. His phone lit up with another message from Victoria. Still, he didn't check it. Tomorrow would bring whatever it brought. Tonight, he had everything he needed right here in his arms. 8 months of heaven and a lifetime more to come. If only he'd known how short heaven could be. If only he'd held her just a little tighter. If only he'd checked those messages, seen the threats beneath his mother's wounded pride. But that night, Logan Harper simply held his wife and believed in forever. The storm was coming, but for one more night, they danced in the calm before it hit. The FBI arrived at Harper Industries like a thunderclap on a clear Tuesday morning. Logan was reviewing quarterly projections when Riley burst through his office doors, face white with panic. "Sir, there are federal agents in the lobby. They have a warrant." Logan's blood chilled, but his voice remained steady. "For what?" "Financial crimes. They're saying." Riley swallowed hard. "They're saying cyber fraud, money laundering through cryptocurrency, technology theft. They want to see you immediately." Through his office windows, Logan could see the chaos below. Agents swarming the building like ants, employees being herded into conference rooms, computers being tagged and bagged. This wasn't a simple inquiry. This was a raid. "Call David Morrison," Logan said, naming his attorney. "Tell him to meet me here immediately. And Riley, find Isabella. Make sure she's safe." "She's at the foundation office today, sir. Should I?" "Tell her nothing yet. Just make sure she stays there." Agent Turner looked like a man who enjoyed his job too much. Tall, lean, with the kind of buzz cut that suggested military precision thinking. He sat across from Logan in the conference room, flanked by 2 other agents, laying out documents with theatrical precision. "Mr. Harper," Turner began, his voice carrying false sympathy, "we have evidence of systematic fraud involving Harper Industries' proprietary technology, specifically the sale of classified AI algorithms to foreign entities through cryptocurrency channels." Logan studied the documents, his confusion genuine. "I've never seen these transactions before." "Your digital signature says otherwise." Turner slid another paper across. "As does the blockchain evidence showing transfers from wallets registered to your personal devices." The wallet addresses were unfamiliar, but the signatures. Logan's stomach dropped. They looked perfect. Too perfect. "These are forgeries," he said. "That's what they all say." Turner's smile was sharp. "We also have witness testimony. Your former chief technology officer, Trent Morrison, has been very cooperative." Trent Morrison. Logan hadn't thought about him in 2 years, not since he'd been fired for attempting to sell Harper Industries code to competitors. The termination had been ugly, full of threats and accusations. "Morrison was terminated for corporate espionage," Logan said carefully. "His testimony would be suspect at best. Not when it's backed by digital evidence." Turner leaned forward. "Here's what we know, Mr. Harper. Over the past 18 months, Someone using your credentials has sold over $100 million worth of proprietary technology to entities in China, Russia, and North Korea. The payments were laundered through a complex cryptocurrency network, but we've traced them all back to you. That's impossible. The blockchain doesn't lie. Turner's voice hardened. Neither does this. He produced a tablet playing an audio recording. Logan's voice, clear and unmistakable. The Beijing transfer needs to happen tonight. Use the tertiary wallet, the one linked to the Cayman account. Logan's world tilted. That was his voice, his exact intonation, but he'd never said those words. I need my attorney, he managed. Of course. But Mr. Harper, you should know that Congressman Blackwood has taken a personal interest in this case. He's pushing for maximum charges. Technology theft affecting national security carries a potential life sentence. Richard Blackwood. The name hit Logan like ice water. Their encounter at the hospital, the way he'd looked at Isabella, the follow-up messages Logan had ignored. David Morrison arrived within the hour, his usually calm demeanor strained. After reviewing the evidence, he pulled Logan aside. This is sophisticated, David said quietly. The digital forensics alone would have taken months to fabricate. Someone with serious resources wants you destroyed. Blackwood, Logan said. It has to be. The timing right after Isabella rejected his advances at the charity gala. You have proof he made advances? Logan thought back to the gala 2 weeks ago. Blackwood cornering Isabella during cocktails, his hand on her arm, her polite but firm rejection. The fury in his eyes when Logan intervened. Nothing actionable, Logan admitted. David, what are my options? Honestly, they have enough for an arrest warrant. You can surrender voluntarily or they'll take you in cuffs. Either way, you're looking at federal detention until bail hearings. Logan's phone buzzed. Isabella. Why are there news vans outside the foundation? Logan, what's happening? His heart clenched. She'd worked so hard to build credibility for the foundation, to earn respect despite being just the trophy wife in society's eyes. This would destroy everything. I need to see my wife, Logan said. After you surrender, Turner interrupted, having clearly eavesdropped. We execute the arrest warrant in 1 hour, Mr. Harper. I suggest you use that time to get your affairs in order. The next hour blurred past in a haze of desperate phone calls and hasty instructions. Logan transferred immediate authority to his CFO, ensuring Harper Industries could function without him. He moved what liquid assets he could to accounts Isabella could access, knowing the government would freeze everything else. Finally, with 15 minutes remaining, he called Isabella. Logan, thank God, she answered. There are reporters everywhere. They're saying, her voice broke, they're saying you're being arrested. Listen carefully, Logan said, forcing calm into his voice. I need you to go to the penthouse. Winston will meet you there. There's a safe in my office. I don't care about money, Logan. Tell me what's happening. Someone's framing me. Sophisticated digital forgeries, cryptocurrency transfers I never made. I think it's Blackwood. Revenge for me turning him down. Her voice went cold with understanding. That bastard. At the gala, he said you'd regret not being more cooperative. Baby, listen. They're going to arrest me. The media will be brutal. You need to be prepared. I'm coming there. No. The word came out harsh with desperation. Isabella, please. The last thing I need is you in the middle of this circus. Go to the penthouse. Call Eleanor. Make sure she's safe. And whatever happens, whatever they say about me, know that I love you. Logan. Her voice broke on a sob. This can't be happening. We'll fight it. David's the best, but it's going to get ugly before it gets better. Mr. Harper. Turner appeared in the doorway. Time's up. I love you, Logan said quickly. Remember that. No matter what happens, I love you. The arrest was orchestrated for maximum humiliation. Media had been tipped off likely by Blackwood, and the lobby teemed with cameras. Logan kept his head high as Turner led him out in handcuffs, the click of photographers like machine gun fire. Mr. Harper, did you sell secrets to China? Is it true you funded terrorism through cryptocurrency? What does your wife think of your crimes? Logan said nothing, following David's whispered advice to stay silent. But inside, rage built like a furnace, not for himself, but for Isabella, who would have to watch this on every news channel, see her husband paraded like a common criminal. The federal detention center was a concrete monument to despair. After processing fingerprints, photographs, the systematic stripping of dignity, Logan found himself in a holding cell with 3 other men awaiting arraignment. "Harper?" one of them said. "The billionaire? Man, how the mighty fall." Logan ignored him, focusing on the single thought that mattered. Isabella was safe. Whatever happened to him, she was safe. His arraignment was set for the following morning. David visited that evening, his expression grim. "The prosecutor's pushing for no bail," he reported. "Calling you a flight risk given your resources." "What resources?" "They've frozen everything." "I'll argue that. But Logan, there's something else. Trent Morrison claims to have recordings of meetings where you discussed the illegal transfers. Video evidence." "From when?" "Various dates over the past year, including some when you were supposedly meeting with him privately." Logan's mind raced. "I haven't seen Morrison in 2 years, not since his termination. The videos suggest otherwise. They're deepfakes, obviously, but good ones. Scary good." Deepfakes, of course. The same technology that had created his voice authorizing transfers he'd never made. "This is about Isabella," Logan said suddenly. "Blackwood wants something, and he's using me to get it." What could he want? Logan thought about Blackwood's eyes at the charity gala, the possessive way he'd touched Isabella's arm. The man collected beautiful things and powerful connections. Isabella was both. "Control," Logan said. "He wants to own what I have." That night, Logan lay on a thin mattress in a federal cell, staring at concrete ceiling tiles and thinking about his wife. Was she safe? Was Eleanor okay? How was the foundation handling the scandal? He'd built an empire over 20 years, created jobs for thousands, generated billions in economic activity. But none of that mattered now. All that mattered was protecting the woman who'd saved his soul. Miles away, in the Harper penthouse, Isabella sat with Winston and Eleanor, watching the news coverage with mounting horror. Her husband's arrest played on every channel, analysts dissecting his supposed crimes with gleeful speculation. "It's lies," she said for the 100th time. "All of it. Logan would never—" "We know, dear," Eleanor said gently, "but the evidence seems overwhelming." Isabella's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Mrs. Harper." Richard Blackwood's voice oozed false sympathy. "I'm so sorry about your husband's troubles. Perhaps we should meet to discuss your options." "I have nothing to discuss with you." "No? Not even when I might be able to help Logan. You see, I have influence with the prosecutor. A word from me could mean the difference between 2 years and 20. Isabella's hand clenched the phone. "What do you want?" "Just a conversation. Tomorrow, noon, my office. Come alone and come ready to be reasonable. Your husband's future depends on it." The line went dead. Isabella looked at Eleanor and Winston, seeing her own fear reflected in their faces. The perfect storm had arrived, and she was about to walk straight into its eye. But for Logan, she'd walk through hell itself. Tomorrow she'd face the devil who'd orchestrated their destruction, and somehow she'd find a way to bring her husband home. 6 weeks after Logan's arrest, Isabella visited him at the federal detention center. Through the glass partition, she saw how thin he'd become, but his eyes still held love for her. "The foundation lost 3 board members," she told him, "but the students wrote letters of support." "That's what matters," Logan said, though worry lined his face. "The prosecutor offered a deal 2 years if I plead guilty." "No. You're innocent." Isabella pulled out a folder. "Marcus Chen, that student I tutored, he's been helping. He traced the blockchain transactions to a server farm owned by Blackwood's shell company." Logan's eyes widened. "This is dangerous." "Blackwood already knows. He invited me to lunch, suggested I'd need his protection if I left you." Her voice turned steel. "I'm not some helpless victim, Logan." That evening, Isabella met Marcus in Chinatown. The young hacker had discovered something shocking. Victoria Harper, Logan's mother, had paid Morrison $2 million through hidden transfers. She helped frame her own son? Isabella breathed. Detective Walsh was waiting at Isabella's apartment. "I've been investigating the FBI's case. I know what you found, and I want to help. Morrison wants to meet with you tomorrow. He's ready to confess." The warehouse meeting was a trap. Morrison had barely started revealing Blackwood's plan when men in suits burst in. They dragged Isabella to Blackwood's office. "Leave Logan," Blackwood said smoothly. "Become mine, and maybe he serves 5 years instead of 20. I'd rather visit him in prison for 20 years than spend one night with you." Isabella secretly recorded their conversation, Blackwood's threats and admissions captured on her phone. "Stay away from my family," she warned, showing him the recording app. Back home, Walsh had secured Morrison's safety deposit box containing recordings of Blackwood and Victoria planning everything. Marcus released digital evidence across secure servers. The investigation exploded into headlines. 8 months later, the prosecutor dropped all charges. The courtroom erupted as Logan was freed. Isabella flew into his arms, both crying as they embraced without barriers for the first time in nearly a year. "You saved me," Logan whispered. "We saved each other." Outside, Logan addressed the media. "The Harper Reeves Foundation will expand to help those wrongfully accused. If this can happen to someone with my resources, imagine those without." Blackwood received 25 to life. Victoria got 2 years. Morrison testified in exchange for immunity, his son's medical care secured. In their penthouse, Logan held Isabella close. "I realize something in that cell home isn't a place, it's you." Marcus joined Harper Industries as head of cybersecurity. Walsh received a promotion. The foundation expanded nationally under Isabella's leadership as CEO. "We survived," Isabella said, watching Chicago's skyline. "We fought monsters and won." "You fought," Logan corrected. "You brought thunder when they brought storms." They'd lost an empire and found something greater, unbreakable love forged in fire, tested by separation, and proven stronger than any conspiracy. 5 years after the trial, Isabella found Logan in his study. Dr. Whitman called about new nano-assisted fertility treatments, 7% success rate. Logan's breath caught. They'd tried everything before his arrest. The failures had nearly broken them. "Do you want to try again? What if we didn't fail this time?" The treatments were grueling. 3 attempts failed. Isabella suggested stopping, but Logan felt their miracle was coming. The 4th attempt felt different, calmer, more peaceful. 2 weeks later, Isabella stared at 3 positive pregnancy tests. She rushed to Logan's office, interrupting his board meeting. "We did it," she said, showing him the tests. "Against every odd." Logan fell to his knees, pressing his face to her stomach. "Hello, little miracle." At 12 weeks, the ultrasound revealed twins. "Identical boys," Dr. Whitman announced, amazed. "Medical impossibilities." The pregnancy was monitored intensively. Logan became the most attentive father Tobe, talking to his sons nightly, building their nursery with his own hands. Labor came during a January blizzard, poetic since they'd met in one. Alexander arrived at 11:43 p.m. Benjamin 4 minutes later. 5 pounds each, but perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, the nurse confirmed. Eleanor held her great-grandsons with tears of joy. Harper eyes, Reeves spirit. 5 years later, their house rang with the chaos of twin boys. The foundation had helped thousands of students. Marcus served on the board. Victoria had apologized from prison, though Logan wasn't ready to forgive. "Daddy, look," Alexander called from the garden. "We made a castle." "Better than your tower," Benjamin added, "'cause it has Mama's garden." Isabella watched from the kitchen, her hand on her stomach where another miracle grew. A daughter, this time Eleanor Clare, named for the grandmother who'd lived just long enough to know she was coming. That evening, Patricia Chen visited with her daughter, a foundation graduate heading to medical school. "Thank you for believing in kids like me." "Someone believed in us first," Isabella replied. "That's how love spreads." Later, watching fireflies with the boys curled between them, Logan asked, "Any regrets?" "Never. Every pain led to this joy." They'd learned the ultimate truth. Wealth wasn't measured in billions, but in small hands holding yours, laughter filling your home, and love multiplying daily. From lonely billionaire and desperate housekeeper to this perfect chaos, they'd built an empire of love. The boys would know they were desperately wanted, impossibly achieved, limitlessly loved. Logan looked at his family, Isabella, the twins, another miracle growing. I love you all. Love you too, they chorused. In their Chicago garden, surrounded by fireflies and impossible joy, they were the richest people alive. They'd started with nothing but loneliness and determination. They'd weathered storms, fought monsters, created miracles. The billionaire who learned to feel, the woman who taught him how, proof that love could rewrite the rules of the universe itself, perfect for each other. That was everything.